Hi folks, it's Switchback. I'm going to preface this video by saying I am not an ultralighter and I am not a thru hiker. If I ever do a thru hike, my backpack may look very different than it currently does. A lot of these items are debated or even bashed in the backpacking community. And I say, until you're carrying my backpack, I'm going to carry what I'm going to carry and you can carry what you're going to carry. Thank you very much. Hike your own hike, carry what works for you, whether it's ultralight, ultra heavy, or somewhere in between. In fact, I'd love to hear what controversial items you carry. But let's get started. The cool kids on the trail, they use a smart water bottle. They screw on their Sawyer, about like that, drink from this. That's what the cool kids do. I've never been one of the cool kids. So instead of this, I tend to carry either this or a reservoir. Both get thrown shade in the backpacking community, but let's start with the Nalgene. These are heavy, they're bulky, yes. But they're also very shatter resistant. They're going to last a lot longer than this bad boy. I have some of these I've had for 15 years plus. I've never had one break or fail. These can be filled with hot water to put inside of your sleeping bag or your quilt, which is definitely not recommended with this. They have the measurements, which of course you can draw on this if you really want to, but if you have to replace this on the trail, and you probably don't have a Sharpie with you, so you lose that. This is much easier to have issues with squishing in your backpack, coming out here, I don't like it. And this is not going to collapse at all. Frankly, I just find this easier to use than a smart water bottle. I'd also rather have this on my shoulder strap than this big tall thing, whether or not it has the filter on it. So if this does have the filter on it, it's huge, it's tall, it's likely to squeeze, spill water out here. And if it doesn't have that on it, then you have to screw it on each and every time that you want to take a sip of this water. Now, some people carry a dirty and a clean, and they pour this into a different smart water bottle. That seems like a pain, and you have to burp this, and there are just a lot of reasons I don't do this. I personally don't need any more barriers to staying hydrated on the trail than there already are. Plus, my CNOC bag that I connect to my Sawyer is a lot easier to fill on the trail than this is, and it collapses down, of course, real small. Now, I don't take a Nalgene on every trip, but if water is abundant or it's going to be too cold and my reservoir tube is likely to freeze, then my Nalgene is the way to go. For the reservoir, some of the gripes are having to clean it. It's hard to fill, hard to measure how much water you have left, and they can burst. Technically, all true. Although I have been using reservoirs for well over 20 years, I've never had one burst. But I stay so much better hydrated if my tube is just right there on my shoulder and I don't have to stop and get a bottle out of my pack every single time I want to take a sip of water. And most of my backpacking is solo, so I can't reach the pockets that are on the, I really can't reach where water would be stored. I am able to refill my bladder while it's still inside of my pack, and you can see this video up here for how I do that. It carries more than a smart water bottle. Doesn't take up as much room as a smart water bottle, especially as it's going down in volume. I can choose my 1.5 liter, I can choose my 2.5 liter, I can even hydrate my dog from it. In rainy weather, most people will use a pack liner, and I do that as well, but I also do a pack cover. I like my pack not to get super saturated, and if I have stuff on the outside like a closed cell foam pad or my tent, it's nice if that doesn't get wet. And in my experience, these do go over the stuff on the outside of your pack. Now, these aren't perfect. I would never rely solely on these, but it does keep my pack from getting saturated with water and getting that much heavier. I am personally satisfied enough that I'm going to get enough benefit out of these to carry it, especially if I know for sure that it's going to be raining. One of the nice things with backpacking is getting away from technology. That said, a certain amount of technology is sort of inevitable on the trail, and especially when you do YouTube videos, but that's a whole other topic. But even before I did YouTube videos, I carried a power bank because I still enjoyed taking photos and videos of whatever's around me. Even on an overnighter, I really like to have a power bank. Not to mention that I like to listen to music and podcasts nights while I'm in camp or while I'm on the trail. Even taking battery saving measures like dimming my screen and putting it in airplane mode and all of that, I still go through a lot of power. Now that I am doing YouTube videos, I'll probably charge my phone twice on an overnighter depending on how much I'm recording. Not to mention keeping things like my headlamp and my Garmin InReach and my watch and all my other gear charged. While I don't like solar panel power banks, I don't think that they're worth the added weight for the minimum benefit that you get out of having that big old solar panel on there. For 3.4 ounces, I do carry sometimes this. If I know that there's going to be a lot of sun, especially on my back, and I'm going to put this on my back, it's a great way to go. Again, 3.4 ounces. It's even turning on just with a little bit of light that we're getting right now. It does come with a couple of these crappy carabiners. And I've used this for so far one trip, so to be fair, but anyway, one backpacking trip, one camping trip, but the carabiners that came with it suck, clearly. So, but I was already going to tie these on there anyway, which I just put this on, attach it to the top lid of my backpack, and it does a great job. On my 20,000 milliamp hour power bank here, this got charged about 10% in an hour with this in full sun. I'm impressed with that. So you just plug a power cord into here and then connect it to whatever you want to charge. I'm going to charge my power banks, and then that way I can charge other things from the power banks. But it works really nicely. And then in camp, I could just leave this somewhere, put this in the shade somewhere, or put something in front of it so that it's not in the sun, and let her rip. Now, if I'm not sure about how much sunlight exposure there's going to be, I may not take this, or certainly if it's going to be like this and there's a lot of tree cover, or it's going to be cloudy or rainy, I would not necessarily take this. But again, at 3.4 ounces, it's not a big risk. And again, I have taken it car camping. It's handy for otherwise traveling, although it does not work through a windshield, they say. I have not tried it myself. If you use an inflatable sleeping pad, it is not recommended that you inflate it with your breath because of the risk of mold and delamination. How true those are, honestly, not sure. But to me, it's not worth the risk, and it's exhausting at the end of the day if you've been hiking all day to have to then manually inflate a sleeping pad with your mouth. Most quality pads come with an inflation sac, and that works great. But for the same amount of weight, or possibly even less, I personally like to carry my Flextail Gear Tiny Pump. Now, with all of the attachments, it is 104 grams. I never carry all of the attachments. I just take the ones that I need for that particular trip. Plus, I can use this to blow debris out of my tent. I can blow oxygen onto a campfire if I'm having one. And I use it to inflate and deflate my body pillow, which is a huge pain without this. The one downside to this is that it can turn on in your backpack, and you may not know because there's also the light. You won't see that if it's in your backpack. I had it turn on the way here. So that's where having your power bank is so helpful. Few things are as annoying as being out and enjoying nature and enjoying the sounds of nature, and then all of a sudden you hear Wilson Phillips coming off of someone's Bluetooth speaker or off of their phone. So I am a big fan of carrying headphones, and I keep it old school. I do the wired Apple earbuds, and they don't have to be charged. They don't take up as much battery on my phone because when you are connecting on Bluetooth, it does use up more battery, which means saving my power bank for when I need it. They're way less likely to get lost than AirPods. They're not noise canceling, so I can still hear what's around me, and I can take one out very easily, and I'm not as annoying to those around me. I really value good sleep when I'm out on the trail. My whole trip is ruined if I am not well rested. And probably anyone that I'm with has the same experience if I'm not well rested. So part of good sleep for me is taking a pillow. And some people will shove clothes into a stuffed sack and call it good. Good for them. If that's you, awesome. If you get good sleep that way, wonderful. I'm not that person. I did it growing up. I don't do it anymore. I'm carrying my own backpack. For my setup, I carry not just one, but 2 pillows and a dedicated buff to make it all work. And you can see how I put these together in this little video here. The buff that I use is going to be dedicated to this so that it's not covered with my neck sweat that I get to breathe in all night. This is totally worth the weight and bulk for me. If you have watched my channel for any amount of time, you are not surprised that I carry my P-Style. I used it right before I started recording this video, but I carry this on every hike. I carry this on every trip, and especially when it's cold or it's busy or it is very handy. One of the reasons that I love this style so much is that I don't have to pull my pants down in order to use it. So if I am turned around, you can't tell. In fact, I will demo that. It's in there, you can't tell. That is my favorite thing when it comes to trails that don't have a lot to hide behind. At least here, there's lots to hide behind. But sometimes there are mosquitoes or ticks and lots of different conditions where it's really handy. Most of my trips are in bear country, but even when they're not, I will still take a bear canister. For one, I have not done a bear hang since high school. While my throwing skills are crap, my ability to get things tangled up and probably high up in a tree, that's gonna happen for me, pretty good. Don't do this, whatever you do. Knowing me, I'd probably have to cut my line because I had jacked it up. And then I would be one of those people who leaves line in a tree. A canister is simply so much easier to deal with. I don't have to worry about mini bears like raccoons and rodents and other critters that might want to get into my smellables. I also really like that I don't have to worry about whether or not there will be suitable trees available, and I can use it as a stool while I'm in camp. If you've enjoyed this video, then you might enjoy watching this one next. Be sure to like and subscribe so that you don't miss anything, and I will look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.